My family is wealthy, and we've done plenty of charity, but heaven hasn't favored me. I brought disaster on myself. At my birthday banquet, the girl I'd sponsored from a mountain village, Lily, showed up wearing the pink diamond necklace I'd bought back at an auction. With a coy smile lifting her cheeks, she stood beside my fiancé Jacob, looking bright and spirited. In a jet-black suit, he looked tall and sharp, his arm linked with Lily's as they strode through the crowd. Bathed in everyone's gaze, the corners of his mouth lifted, and then the two of them came straight toward me. Jacob gave me a once-over, his smile dropped. "Didn't I tell you to pick Lily up? How could you leave her at the airport? Anne, do you have any compassion left? She's already had such a hard life. It's her first time here. She doesn't know a soul. What if she'd been trafficked? You never really wanted to sponsor her. You're just faking kindness." His eyes flashed with accusation and contempt. I said coolly, "I arranged for someone to go. She just didn't pick up the phone." Jacob let out a cold laugh. "So what? What would it have cost you to go yourself? Typical rich heiress, always above it all. You could never be a girl like Lily." I laughed when I heard that, pointed at the necklace around Lily's neck, and said without expression, "You're right. It's hard for me to be like her. I wouldn't brazenly wear someone else's jewelry as my own, and I wouldn't crash another person's birthday party without an invitation just to draw attention." Lily flushed, shrank timidly behind Jacob as if about to cry, then took off the necklace and handed it to me. "Anne, big sis, Jacob gave this to me. I didn't know it was yours, and he's the one who brought me here. Yes, I'm poor, and yes, I grew up on your sponsorship, but I never asked you to help me. You did it willingly. You can't insult me like this." With reddened eyes and that innocent, pitiful look, I somehow became the bully without a sound. I gave a short, cold laugh and took the necklace. "Fine, this is what you want. From now on, I won't force myself either. Everything I did before, consider it thrown to the dogs. Whether it's college or anything after, you won't get another cent of support from me." Lily seemed unable to hold back. Her lips twitched, then her eyes welled up again. "Anne, big sis, Jacob said he'll take full responsibility for supporting me from now on, so you don't have to worry. And with Jacob taking care of me, why would I need college? Isn't it better if I just stay by his side and look after him?" Ha! Her foxtail had finally shown, her true colors at last. The reason I chose Lily back then and kept giving selflessly all these years wasn't that I was stupid. It was because, compared to the other kids, she was more pitiful. I went to that small town and she knelt before me, tears mixing with the grime on her face. "Big sis, my parents are dead. I'm so hungry. I want something to eat. I really want to go to school." If it hadn't been for that display of misery, I might have chosen another girl, one who was motivated and sensible, instead of her, the one whose grades were always at the bottom. I rented her a small studio here, sent her to school, gave her a living allowance, and hired someone to look after her until she graduated from high school. Not long ago, after she finished the college entrance exams, I kindly invited her over, planning to arrange a trip so she could relax. But after she arrived, she stayed for a month, and I barely saw her twice. Only from others did I learn she was getting closer and closer to my fiancé. At first, I didn't think much of it, until the two of them walked into a hotel holding hands. I just hadn't had time to deal with it yet. At that moment during my birthday party, Jacob was looking at me with open contempt. "I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving Lily in your hands. If you can afford to support her, so can I. After all, I'm not much worse off than the Anne family." Of course, he was the up-and-coming heir of the Johnson family, and for someone like him, keeping a woman was an easy thing. Judging from the way he lifted his chin, brimming with arrogance and wealth, he seemed to have completely forgotten the desperate man who had once begged me for help. I looked at him without a trace of expression. "Jacob, if it weren't for me investing in your family back then, pulling in clients for you, I doubt you'd even be able to support yourself right now." His face faltered slightly at my words, but he quickly recovered and looked up at me with disdain. "Do you really think our family's comeback depended entirely on you? That's hilarious. It was all thanks to my business sense. That little bit of money you gave us? I didn't even think much of it." I nodded seriously, satisfied to finally hear him say it. Then I rose, walked to the stage, took the microphone, and cleared my throat. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to my birthday banquet. Today, I have an announcement. Effective immediately, all cooperation between the Ann Group and Johnson Industries will cease. From here on out, our two families will have nothing to do with each other. As for Jacob, since he already has someone new, I am willing to step aside. Our engagement is canceled, our relationship over. From this moment on, he and I have nothing to do with each other. The words had barely left my mouth when the room erupted in astonishment. All eyes turned to Jacob, whose face flushed red and pale in turn before he calmed himself. He strode up with arrogant pride. The Ann family and ours have cooperated for years, but now our paths are different. They can no longer keep up with our pace of development. Parting ways was bound to happen. As for Ann being cold-blooded and overbearing, there's nothing between us anymore. From now on, the Johnsons and the Anns will have no connection whatsoever. The heart of this ungrateful wolf was now laid bare for everyone to see. He left the stage without restraint, his arm draped around Lily's shoulder, swaggering out without noticing the mixture of shock, contempt, and pity in the eyes of those watching. After all, everyone there, except him, knew the truth. Without the Ann family, the Johnsons would be nothing. The birthday banquet ended in disappointment, but I didn't feel sad, only disgusted. Jacob and I had grown up together, childhood sweethearts. Back then he was gentle, attentive, and treated me well. But as we grew older, I realized he was only using his affection for me to curry favor with my family. Still, when his family was on the brink of bankruptcy, burdened with debt, I hadn't hesitated to help him. At that time, I had just graduated. With an older cousin above me and a nephew below, my path into the company was far from smooth. Even so, I gritted my teeth and climbed step by step. After 2 years of sleepless days and nights, I finally completed a project that earned my elder's approval. That was when he called me, crying so hard he could barely speak. "Ann, soon I'll have nothing left. I feel so awful. I'm not good enough for you anymore. Do you know how much I want to build a home with you?" My emotions overpowered my reason. Risking being kicked out of the company, I injected funds into his family's business and pulled strings to connect them with clients. I took a piece of worthless scrap metal and polished it into a lump of gold. But now, with both wealth and reputation in his hands, the tears in his eyes had turned into grease. Looking at it now, those two ungrateful wolves were a perfect match. My soft heart had raised 2 parasites. Now it was time to cut them out completely. When I got home, the news had already reached my parents. My father adjusted his glasses, his face full of relief. "Ann, you've finally come to your senses. Even though our families have been close for generations, I could tell from the start that Jacob wasn't reliable." My mother was so happy she was almost in tears. "You defended him like your life depended on it, and ended up upsetting your grandparents so many times. You just wouldn't listen. From now on, you'd better keep your eyes open." I nodded. "Dad, Mom?" From now on, I would put all my focus into work and never let them cause me trouble again. That night, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson came to my house, apologizing over and over. "Ann, our families have been close for generations. We can't just cut ties like this. It's all that useless fool's fault. He doesn't know what's right from wrong. But considering he's still young, forgive him for this mistake. Don't be too harsh." Mr. Johnson let out a long sigh, while Mrs. Johnson's eyes turned red with worry and anger. "It's that little fox's fault. What kind of woman goes and seduces my son? Men, you know, can be blinded sometimes. He only made the kind of mistake all men make. Ann, forgive him. I promise he'll never do it again." Having been neighbors with the Johnsons for years, I knew exactly what they were thinking. They were afraid of losing the Ann family's support, and deep down, they never believed their son had done anything wrong. Until the day I married into their family, they would humble themselves to come apologize. In the past, for Jacob's sake, I'd treated them with respect, but now, I didn't hesitate to refuse. I have everything I need. I don't have to go digging in the trash. My words were blunt, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's expressions shifted slightly. I then softened my tone, smiling faintly. "Uncle, Auntie, he's an adult now. He needs to take responsibility for his own actions." Using a mix of firmness and politeness, I left them with no room to push further. Their faces were dark as they left, Mrs. Johnson hurrying so quickly that she nearly bumped into the door. After dealing with them, I went to the company. My coworkers were cheering. Finally got rid of that leech of a Johnson. If it weren't for propping them up, our profit margins would have been several times higher by now. Couldn't stand those blood-sucking parasites, acting like they were doing us a favor. Good thing you came to your senses, Miss Anne. Honestly, I can't stand that useless freeloader. If I'm paying for a boy toy, the least he can do is provide some emotional value. When they saw me walk in, the room instantly went quiet. My secretary came over with a contract in hand, looking uneasy. Miss Anne, everything else is taken care of, but this contract is the only issue. It was signed with the Johnsons a few months ago. If we terminate it, we might have to pay a breach penalty. I glanced at the contract and remained calm, then called Jacob directly. The contract for the A project we signed a few days ago was meant to support your branch office. Now that we're ending our cooperation, please come over and sign to cancel it. This deal had been pure charity on my part, essentially using my own resources to run his business with barely any profit for us. Jacob burst into arrogant laughter on the other end. Cancel? Sure, just pay the penalty. It's only a few tens of millions. Don't tell me you can't afford it? Once again, he managed to surprise me with the thickness of his skin. But this played right into my plans. Fine, see you in court. If he wanted to throw away his dignity, I wasn't about to save it for him. In court, hiding behind the contract, he still carried himself with arrogance. But our company's top attorney wasn't to be underestimated. The defense centered on 3 points. First, Jacob and I had been in a relationship when the contract was signed, and the agreement was heavily influenced by personal feelings, making the terms inherently unfair to my side. Second, the excessive penalty far exceeded the legal limit and should render the contract void. Third, despite the contract being signed, the Johnsons had engaged in fraudulent conduct by failing to pay the required deposit, meaning the contract had never taken effect. Jacob exploded in the courtroom. Who the hell are you trying to fool? What personal feelings? Everything's written clearly in black and white. Just pay up already. The judge frowned as they reviewed the documents, while Jacob's own lawyer shot him a look of pure frustration, as if scolding a hopeless fool. But he had no idea, still cursing and swearing under his breath. When the judge didn't give any reaction, I submitted several documents. Your Honor, according to what I know, the Johnsons have been evading taxes for years and have engaged in illegal business practices. The real party in breach here is them. About a year ago, Jacob had switched to a luxury car, bought several lavish mansions, and was spending over $70 million a month, something that left even me stunned. When I asked him about it, he was proud and excited. Of course. It's all thanks to our new business model. Your Ann Group is too outdated, it's long overdue for reform. I had felt something was off, but because I trusted him, I didn't dig deeper. It wasn't until Lily came into the picture that I started investigating their every move, and discovered Jacob was bold enough to dabble in anything, no matter how reckless. After reviewing the evidence, the judge immediately called for a recess. Outside the courtroom, Jacob's eyes were bloodshot. Anne, I knew you had bad intentions. So what, I broke up with you? Does that mean you have to slander me like this? I let out a cold laugh. You know perfectly well whether this is slander. Once the court collects the evidence, everything will be clear. I turned to head for my car, but he rushed forward in a fury, grabbing at me. Don't you walk away from me. You're only doing all this because you resent me for being with Lily. No matter what you do, I'll never change my mind and be with a vicious woman like you. Lily is kind-hearted, she's 100 times better than you. Keep dreaming. I yanked my arm free and slapped him, twice, one on each cheek, perfectly symmetrical. Then go find Lily right now. I sincerely hope the two of you are tied together for life. His eyes blazed with rage, as if he wanted to hit me back, but the bodyguards behind me weren't for show. In the end, he could only let out a low growl and watch as I drove away. At the entrance of the villa community, Lily was sitting on the edge of a flower bed. When she saw me, she immediately ran into the middle of the road, blocking my car. Her face was flushed, with the faint outline of a slap mark, and her tear stains weren't yet dry. Hatred flickered in her eyes as she glared at me. "Anne, why are you treating me like this? Do you think that by going to complain to Jacob's parents and making them dislike me, I won't be able to marry into the Johnson family? You'd better give up that idea. As long as Jacob loves me, I'll definitely become his wife." I rolled down my window, giving her the kind of smile a zoo visitor might give an animal. "I'd be more than happy for you two to stay together for the rest of your lives. If his parents don't approve of you, what does that have to do with me? Am I his mother? I know you're in a rush, but take it easy. If you can't be the wife, you can always settle for being the mistress. You're already experienced in that role." She pointed at me, gritting her teeth. "Don't think that just because you have money, you can have everything. Jacob and I truly love each other. Nothing can separate us. No man would ever want a woman like you who only knows how to make money." I gave her a slow once-over. "As long as you and your scumbag boyfriend are happy, that's all that matters. Keep it up. Don't let other people's slaps get you down. But you know, a little girl barely 18 or 19 dreaming of leaping straight into high society shouldn't assume all rich families are fools. That kind of thinking is dangerous. Still, I wish you success." She bared her teeth. "You're just a sore loser who can't get what she wants." I stepped on the gas and drove straight toward her. She quickly shut her mouth and darted to the side. In my rearview mirror, I saw her stomping her feet in anger. Over the next few days, my routine was strictly work-home work. I poured every bit of my energy into my job, gradually cleaning up all the mess Jacob had left behind. My grandfather even came to my office, looking at me with relief. "Girl, thank goodness you found your way back. These past few days you've done well. We can rest easy now." Those light, almost casual words from my grandfather nearly brought tears to my eyes. Ever since I was a child, I'd known that, although my grandparents loved me, they favored my cousin, Andrew Ann, far more. Not for any particular reason, just because, from the time we were young, he'd let me take the blame for countless things. Out of affection, I never argued. For years, they pinned all their hopes on Andrew, until I worked tirelessly and earned admission to a top overseas university. Only then did they look at me differently. Later, when I entered the company, Andrew started setting traps for me again and again, and my grandparents misunderstood me plenty. It took 100 times the effort for me to finally make them see my ability and worth. But then, for Jacob's sake, I got dragged into a swamp. I hadn't caused the company any losses, but I had nothing impressive to show either. A few days ago, I heard that if my grandfather lost faith in me, he'd strip me of all my authority and hand it to Andrew. But now he was reassured, and so was I. "Thank you for your trust, Grandpa. I'll keep working hard." That evening, I was still working late at the office. Almost everyone had left when the door opened a crack and Andrew strolled in, wearing designer clothes and a smug smile. "Well, little girl, you've grown up. Got some tricks up your sleeve now. So, tell me, what did Grandpa say to you this morning? Did you ask him for more shares again? You're such a tiny thing, how can you be so greedy?" My face stayed cold. "Andrew, you're so suspicious. I actually know a good psychologist you could see." After the mess with Jacob and Lily, I'd learned 2 truths. Never let pity cloud your judgment, and enduring humiliation doesn't make people grateful. It only makes them think you're easy to bully. He froze for a second, then exploded. "You little brat. Watch your mouth. I'll tell you this. One day, all of the Ann family's wealth will be mine. A woman like you shouldn't even dream about it. Treat me better now, and when I inherit everything, maybe I'll throw you a scrap. But piss me off, and I'll throw your whole family out on the street." This was exactly why, even though I was born into wealth, I still worked myself to the bone. My dear cousin dreamed day and night of kicking my family out. I gave a cold laugh. "Big Boss Andrew, you've got a dozen mistresses outside and still have this much energy?" He jabbed a finger so close to my face it nearly touched me. "If you dare tattle to my wife, I'll beat you to death." I rolled my eyes. "Of course I won't tattle. Not because I'm afraid, just because I can't be bothered. Honestly, this little spark isn't even enough to light a match." When court convened again, the evidence of the Johnsons' tax evasion was ironclad. Adding everything up, the amount came to 9 figures. In the end, I won the case. The Johnsons had to pay me the penalty, and they also faced massive fines. The moment the verdict was read, Jacob's legs stopped shaking, but he could no longer smile. His face turned ashen. Outside the courtroom, he roared at me. "Anne, why are you doing this to me? You venomous bitch, you just can't stand to see me doing well. A woman like you will never be respected for the rest of your life. It's just a fine. I can afford it." I glanced calmly at the judgment. "Enjoy it while it lasts. Your good days are still ahead." After that, the Johnsons bled heavily to pay the fines. Their internal affairs became a chaotic mess, their illegal conduct destroyed their reputation, and their stock price plummeted. Profits dropped so fast, they were practically invisible. The family might not have collapsed entirely, but I'd worked with them for years. I knew exactly how fragile they were. Years ago, they'd already been through a crisis, and for most of that time, they'd only survived by clinging to the Anne Group's name. On the surface, the Johnsons still looked glamorous, but without the Anne Group behind them, they couldn't withstand even the slightest storm. Their situation was on the brink of collapse. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson came to see me, but I avoided them. Later, my parents told me they had gone to them as well, only to be flatly refused. "You can't blame our Anne for this," my father told them. "If you want to blame someone, blame your son for acting without considering the consequences. He doesn't know how to be content. Anne's already done more than enough for you. Please stop bringing trouble to my daughter." Humiliated, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson left with their tails between their legs. My company secretary informed me that tomorrow there would be a large bidding conference hosted by an overseas firm, CE. While CE wasn't exactly top tier, winning their bid could bring us a substantial profit. More importantly, it would open a door for our company to enter the overseas market, a future with limitless potential. I had done extensive research to secure this deal and was determined to win. The venue that day was packed. Even some of our board members attended in person. Among the crowd, Jacob stood clutching some documents, muttering under his breath like a grade schooler reciting a textbook. When he spotted me, his gaze turned icy, and he slowly walked over. "Anne, with the Anne family's wealth, you still care about a bidding event like this? You're doing this just to target me, aren't you? Trying to take everything from the Johnsons?" I rolled my eyes at him. "With your Johnsons now down to 2 shabby buildings and 3 acres of land, do you think I even need to take anything from you? Relax. Don't flatter yourself." Jacob glared at me. "Just wait. I'll make you regret this." He clenched his fists and walked away. I couldn't help but scoff. The Johnsons really were fearless in their stupidity. At a time when securing CE's cooperation was critical to them, they actually had the nerve to send Jacob, their resident idiot. I was genuinely curious to see how this would play out. The meeting officially began. Each company submitted their materials and proposals. The foreign executives reviewed them carefully and finally shortlisted 5 companies: N Group, Johnson Industries, as well as the well-known Sue Corporation, Lin Corporation, and Gu Corporation. They asked each of us to introduce ourselves and elaborate on the details of our proposals. After Sue, Lin, and Gu had spoken, the CE executives nodded in satisfaction. "Next, President An." I stood up, cleared my throat, and was just about to speak when an abrasive voice suddenly rang out beside me. "Miss Monica, she's a notorious con artist. Just a few days ago, she scammed a huge sum from our company. If you choose to work with them, you'll be inviting endless trouble." As expected, Jacob had launched into his little performance, spouting accusations in a frenzy. The CE representatives froze for a second, then turned to me with wary eyes. I kept my polite smile. "It's true that I was recently in a lawsuit with Johnson Industries. The fact is, I won. You can always trust the law to ensure that no fraudster walks free. Now, this is the most valuable part of our meeting, so I'd like to request 10 minutes of your time." The CE executives whispered among themselves before pulling out my proposal. "Your plan is very good. We'd like to hear your detailed explanation. However, please understand that we will not work with any company that has a tainted record." Frankly, the Anne Group had been a leader in our market for years. As long as I put in the effort and delivered a satisfactory answer, I had full confidence in myself and in my company's strength. "Previously, we conducted market research tailored to your company's needs," I explained. I'm presenting 3 plans today that not only address your management weaknesses, but also stimulate market demand. When I finished, the CE executives nodded vigorously in approval. I sat down to the sound of applause and glanced at Jacob beside me. He shot me a sideways, venomous look before standing up and turning to CE with a fawning smile. We've also done our research. We learned that you are part of the M Nation group. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The CE executives, too, looked at him in stunned disbelief. Monica impatiently reminded him, "We're from overseas." Jacob's face turned bright red and he quickly bowed in apology. "Sorry, this is my proposal." By the end, his forehead was slick with sweat, and when he sat down, he nearly missed the chair entirely. After a brief 10-minute exchange, Monica stood up again. "It's been an honor meeting you all today. Each proposal has its merits, but at present, the one that best suits our needs is from the Ann Group. It's clear President N came fully prepared for this cooperation, with genuine sincerity. If this project is given to her, we have complete confidence." Jacob immediately shouted in protest. "Why? We came prepared too. You're just biased because her family is richer than ours. This is unfair." I shot him a glance. "Unfair? You didn't even know which country CE is from, and you call that being prepared? Your proposal was a mess, unclear, incoherent, and with no real analysis. You couldn't even memorize 2 paragraphs before coming here. Why would they cooperate with you? Because of your ability to flap your lips?" He lunged toward me in anger, but my bodyguard intercepted him just in time and kicked him back several steps. When my grandfather heard the good news, he waited for me in his office. "Very good, very good. That CE contract may not be huge, but it's always been tough to land. Andrew went there several times and couldn't even get close, yet you, a young woman, pulled it off. Truly, the next wave surpasses the last. I see you've really honed your ability now. As it happens, the marketing department manager just resigned. You can take the position." To celebrate, my grandfather happily called my parents, uncle, and aunt to come join us. In a lavish private dining room, he raised his glass in my honor, full of praise for me. Andrew, however, didn't raise his glass. Instead, he made a snide remark from the side. "So what if you got this project? It's only worth a little over $100 million. With all this fuss, someone might think the Ann family's future depends on you." My grandfather's expression darkened, and I didn't feel like humoring Andrew anymore. "Grandpa, today CE's people told me themselves, it's not that they were unwilling to cooperate with us before. It's that my dear cousin here always arrived late to scheduled meetings, acting as if they didn't matter. He's always been the one slandering me behind my back. Maybe now it's time for a role reversal. And everything I'm saying is true." My grandfather's face grew even darker. He slammed his hand on the table. "Andrew, you've been incompetent for years. I've ignored your fooling around with women outside, but don't go too far. The interests of the Ann Group are not to be touched." Andrew flinched, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. "Grandpa, don't listen to her nonsense." But Grandpa jabbed his cane hard into Andrew's thigh, his tone firm. "You think I don't know what you've been doing? Do you realize how much you've cost the company over the years? You're done in the sales department. Hand it over to your sister." Andrew lowered his head, sulking in silence. The rest of the meal was far from pleasant, and his venomous gaze swept over me from time to time. But that was fine. Soon everything would be settled. It wasn't long before word spread that Johnson Industries was in such a critical state that Jacob was desperately borrowing money everywhere. Unfortunately for him, their future was so obviously hopeless that no one was willing to throw cash into a bottomless pit. Eventually, the Johnsons declared bankruptcy. Entertainment news outlets showed the 3 of them, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson and Jacob, lugging large bags out of their mansion, faces dark with humiliation. Drowning in debt, they moved into public housing and started working menial jobs. As for Lily, she had completely vanished. But I wasn't in a rush to find her. After all, my dear cousin hadn't been home once in this whole time. My grandfather was so angry he didn't smile for days, and my uncle and aunt were worried sick. No one knew what Andrew was doing out there. I knew from the start, after all, I'd paid someone to look after Lily for so many years that my nanny had told me plenty over this past while. For example, during Lily's high school years, her mind was never on studying. At first, she tried to cozy up to a few rich kids at school, but none of them gave her the time of day. The summer before her junior year, she came over to my city to handle some paperwork, stayed at my house for a few days, and ended up getting involved with my disgusting excuse for a cousin, Andrew. For years afterward, they kept up their on-and-off affair. After she took the college entrance exams and came to my city again, she even saw him out. Knowing Andrew's character, I wasn't surprised. Spoiled since birth, he's always treated women as toys, surrounded by all kinds of them. Lily never had the power to be his only one, so after a single night together, Andrew gave her no promises at all. Disappointed, she set her sights on my fiancé instead. But you can't hold on to too many things that don't belong to you. It only fills your head with dangerous fantasies. I had given her too much, so of course she wanted more and more. Now, with the Johnsons bankrupt and no more financial security from Jacob, she had no choice but to aim for her last hope. And since Andrew never turned down any woman, I wasn't surprised when I got a report yesterday. Andrew and Lily had gone to a hotel along with several of Andrew's other mistresses. This kind of reckless indulgence always catches up to you eventually. When Andrew came home that day, he'd already lost a noticeable amount of weight. My uncle and aunt fussed over him in concern, while I focused on working hard and bringing greater value to the Ann group. Grandpa kept lecturing him, sometimes even hitting him, but Andrew was so lost in his pleasures that he was beyond saving. Rather than confronting Lily directly, I preferred to watch the two of them tear each other apart. As the fire grew, all I had to do was sit back and enjoy the view. I believed Lily was ambitious and clever enough to find a way forward for herself. Sure enough, Andrew didn't come home for days. My people spotted him and Lily entering the obstetrics department of a hospital. Later, he emerged with a dark expression, while Lily came out looking flushed and giddy. It just so happened I had a classmate who was a senior doctor there. I asked him to check, and Lily had not disappointed me. She was pregnant. I didn't know how they planned to handle it, but they wouldn't have the chance. I anonymously sent a multimedia message to Andrew's wife, Monica, who was vacationing overseas. The video showed Andrew at the hotel, indulging night after night with multiple mistresses, followed by Lily's prenatal exam records. I added a note. "Sorry, Monica. Andrew said that when my child grows up, he'll bring me back home and kick you, the old hag, out." Monica immediately began bombarding me with phone calls, which I ignored. She came back in a fury with her child in tow, stormed into the house, and dragged Andrew to the doorway by his hair. As the eldest daughter of the influential Gu family, she had never been one to tolerate humiliation. "Andrew, you shameless bastard. It's bad enough you cheat, but you have to get creative with it too, huh? Is 3 minutes not exciting enough for you? And now you dare let some woman outside get pregnant? Planning to raise an illegitimate child to fight for my son's inheritance? Your mother should have." Andrew had been drunk, but he sobered up enough to slap her across the face without the slightest trace of guilt. "Don't push me too far. If your powerful family hadn't shoved you at me, you think I'd have ever wanted you? Stop overstepping. Get the hell out." The two of them began physically fighting while the child cried nearby. My parents and my uncle and aunt rushed in to pull them apart. In the end, Monica's face was bruised and swollen. She left in tears, throwing a final threat over her shoulder. "I'll never let you get away with this." She took her child and went home. Grandpa slapped Andrew hard across the face. "Get in front of the ancestral tablets and kneel." Still fuming, Andrew snapped back. "Why the hell should I kneel to you, old man? You're practically in the grave already. And you still plan to give your assets to that little brat? Ordering me around like I'm nothing. What the hell do you think you are?" Grandpa was so enraged that he had a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, Monica filed for divorce in court, citing adultery, and demanded a division of assets. Andrew didn't have many shares to begin with, and now he was forced to give up a large portion of them. Even so, Monica still wasn't satisfied. Out of kindness, I gave her Lily's address. After all, the Gu family behind Monica had cleaned up their image, but their roots were in the underworld. Later, I heard that in the middle of a busy street, A woman covered in scars, bleeding heavily from below, had been found. When I saw the news, it was Lily. Her calves were trembling, her eyes rolled white, and her lips twitched as she was carried into the hospital. Grandpa eventually woke up in the hospital. Andrew was kneeling by his bed, slapping himself. "Grandpa, I really am worthless. That day I was drunk and talking nonsense. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me." Then he pointed at me. "It's all her fault. She's the one who tattled to Monica. Otherwise I wouldn't be divorced right now, and the Nanstro and family wouldn't have lost so much money for nothing. Grandpa, the doctor says you're not in good shape. If you're going to make a will, you have to think carefully. I'm your blood grandson. Only I can carry on the Ann family line." Too stupid. Far too stupid. Grandpa was so angry he fainted again. After 3 hours of emergency treatment, he woke up once more. This time, my parents stood at the door and refused to let Andrew in. He shouted from the hallway, while Grandpa, frowning in pain, took my hand. "I finally see things clearly. Your cousin is useless. From now on, the Ann Group will be yours. Once I'm well enough, I'll transfer the shares to you." Hearing that, Andrew went into a frenzy, pounding on the door. "You old bastard. How can you be so heartless?" Grandpa ordered the bodyguards to come over, and they gave him a good beating before throwing him out. Afterward, I stayed by Grandpa's side while he recovered. Once his health improved, he kept his word and completed the share transfer to me. With his condition requiring long-term rest, the company was now entirely under my control. After taking office, I summoned Andrew. Meeting his cold, venomous glare, I smiled. "Since you're my cousin, I'll give you 2 choices. 1. Take the CE Group's project in Africa and go there to manage it. 2. Leave and find another way to make a living." He went wild, lunging at me. "Who the hell do you think you are to order me around? Get down from there, that position is mine." After another scuffle, the bodyguards gave him another thorough beating. Finally, he came to his senses, holding on to his hatred as he left for Africa. My people later told me that Lily woke up in the hospital to find she'd lost the baby, along with suffering multiple injuries. She didn't dare go to the police. After resting for a few days, she went to find Jacob. By then, his reputation had been ruined and his name blacklisted. Unable to find any white-collar work, he was hauling bricks on a construction site. When he saw her, his eyes lit up. "I knew it, Lily. You're not the kind of woman who despises the poor and loves the rich. Even though I'm broke now, I'll make a comeback one day." Lily shifted away from him in disgust, extending her hand impatiently. "You're the one who made me reject Anne's financial support. Now I can't afford to go to college, so you'd better give me money." Jacob's face fell. "My family still owes so much debt. Where would I get money for you?" Lily sneered. "Then why did you dare promise me in the first place? I don't care. If you don't give me money, I'll tell the site boss you stole something and see who'll still hire you." Jacob snapped, punching her in the head. "What? Give you an inch and you take a mile. If it weren't for you, I'd still be Anne's fiancé, still a high and mighty young master. Get the hell out of here. I don't ever want to see you again." Lily clutched her head, staggering to her feet. She glared and said coldly, "Just you wait." She called the police, and Jacob was detained for more than 10 days for intentional assault. When he got out, the construction site refused to take him back. With no other options, he stayed home, eating and drinking for free. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, unable to bear the burden any longer, lashed out at him with fists and kicks. "Of all the people you could have messed with, you had to mess with Anne? She fed you, clothed you, hell, even a dog wouldn't bite its owner. He's right, you're just ungrateful. With a son like you, what kind of sin have we committed?" After that, Jacob fell into deep gloom, and I heard he developed depression. Under the combined weight of financial ruin and emotional strain, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson both passed away. Word had it that after a few months of begging on the streets, Jacob climbed to the top of a building and jumped. I felt nothing. Heaven is fair. Those unfit to be human don't deserve to live. Perhaps Monica's methods had been too ruthless, because Lily never dared entangle herself with wealthy men again. She couldn't continue her studies, was lazy, and refused to look for a steady job. I heard she wasn't willing to slink back to her small hometown, so after wandering this city of neon lights for a few days, she took the initiative to work at a foot massage parlor. When I saw her again, she was wearing heavy makeup, a revealing outfit, and flirting with a fat, greasy man. Brother Zhao, you'd better ask for me next time. My technique is the best. The man grinned, yellow teeth on full display, his hands wandering while his mouth stayed busy. Of course you are the best, he chuckled, though the disdain in his eyes still slipped through. When she caught it, the man suddenly lost his temper, kicking her hard in the chest. Damn it, you're already selling yourself, and you still dare look down on me? When I heard about this, I only laughed. If she had been content and worked hard back then, she might have had a completely different life. But what did that have to do with me, the CEO of the An Group?